What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another Recruiting Chips episode of The Coach and the Couch Potato. As always, I am Jeremy the Couch Potato. Opposite side of the screen, we've got Coach Slate. We are here courtesy of the Barn Baseball and Softball Academy, and we are here to talk about another week of recruiting visits, as we've got some official visitors that got to campus today. We had a couple guys camp that intrigue us. Pretty low-key week, though, compared to last week, and next weekend is big, too.
Yeah, it was very low key. I thought there was going to be more visitors that came in this week. When I was just doing the research and everything for the episode today, I was really shocked. I thought there was more with the camp and everything going on this week. I thought there was more official visitors, but the small group that they have is definitely some good players that could definitely be an asset to the 26 class.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you've got a couple of positions of need, and then you've got a position that you are always going to take. We'll start with a guy we've talked about a decent amount, a guy you know a lot about, and that's Delaware Hayes running back Favour Akih. 6 foot 190, number 8 player in the state, number 14 running back, 4-star. Released the final 3 like a month and a half ago. OSU, Miami, USC. Still has officials scheduled to Miami and USC. I don't see any way those happen because I think the kid's a Buckeye before the weekend's over. I might be wrong, but obviously you've watched a lot of this kid. You've seen this kid. The things that jump out to me are the kid's a bulldozer. This kid is yoked. Like, when you watch him break through contact and tackles, but he still has decent speed. To give an Ohio comparison, and this is in no way, shape, or form to put him on a pedestal, just guys I watched in high school gives me Warren Ball, Beanie Wells kind of vibes.
Okay.
Just because once he gets that gear and that separation, it's there. The big concern I have, and I'll let you address this part of it too, is obviously at a program like Delaware Hayes, you are not always playing elite level competition. But he did what he's supposed to do, and he dominated in those games when he wasn't.
Yeah, I think Favor's a dog. I think he is an explosive athlete. I think he is a late bloomer. He popped onto the scene. We've talked about the story of us seeing him against Olentangy Liberty in the scrimmage, and like, who is this kid, man? Like, he's out here making plays after plays after plays, and then boom, we get an update on Twitter, and he's doing. He's got an offer from some Power 5 school, and it's like, oh. Yeah. That's who that is. No, he's a really good player, man, and he's an explosive athlete. I think Delaware Hayes is really, Coach Montgomery's doing a really good job there, really building that program up right now. And I do think in the OCC and especially in that division of the OCC, they do play some really good teams. I think they look at the Buckeye Valleys and things like that. Where you think you're playing a lower level school, but in the OCC, I mean, you are going to get some top level talent all the time, and so no matter what, man, he takes care of business. And this is a guy that I think is an automatic take for the Buckeyes. I think he fits that mold for what Coach Locke is looking for in the running back. I think he is a total package, in my opinion. I think he's got the speed, he's got the power, he's got the vision, and I think he's just scratching the surface on what he could be. I'm not going to compare him to like Bo Jackson or anything like that, but I do think he has that James Peoples, that violent streak in his running ability that could, lean him to playing early in his career. I know that, that's kind of far-fetched and maybe, some recruiting services or some people don't think he could play early in his career, but I really think he can. I think he's got that type of ability. And with Coach Locke, I just really think he can get guys developed and ready to go. And I think Favour has all of those traits and abilities. And I just think he's gotten better and better and better and better and better. And so I think he can play multiple positions too, but that's a whole nother conversation. But Favor is he's just a really really good athlete, and I think he'll have a big senior season, and I hope he ends up in the Scarlet and Gray, man, because this kid can play.
Yeah, and one of the things that I find interesting, obviously you read message boards and that type of thing. I think he's being slept on
Yeah,
because he's not necessarily a big name
yeah,
nationally. Um, I've seen people comment on different threads on boards. I'm going to be disappointed if Favor is the only guy we end up with at the running back class. After watching this kid's tape, go watch it if you haven't, because you know, is he as polished as like a hider? No, he's not
no,
yet. But that's okay because that's the whole purpose of development. And the running back position is a spot where you don't have to be super polished right off the rip to be good.
no, no, and that's the thing, and I just really want people to give Coach Locke his flowers when it comes to what he can do in terms of development. If this is Favor is our guy at running back for the 2026 class and he enrolls early, I think getting into that weight program, I think there's just a lot of things that he's going to be able to do if he's able to get on campus early and get into that weight program. And I think he is a perfect guy that can be developed over time. And I do think he can fit into this system and do and provide multiple things. He's got, good hands out of the backfield. He could just do so many different things. So I think he's Hyder. No, I don't. I think Hyder, like I said last week, he's one of my favorite recruits of the last 5 years. But if we end up with Favor, I think you're going to get a kid from Central Ohio who's extremely hungry and is going to be wanting to prove that he is worthy of being our guy in this class. And so I wouldn't sleep on this kid, man, because he's got all the ability. And I'm not going to sleep on what Coach Locke can do with this running back room at any point in time, because I think he's one of the best running back coaches in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. The next guy that is on his official would be offensive lineman Drew Evers from Flower Mound, Texas. 6 foot 3.5, 6'4", depending on where you look. 285 right now. He is the number 13 interior lineman, number 27 player in the state of Texas, composite 4-star. Has visited SMU, LSU already, OSU this weekend, and he's got Penn State and Texas A&M still on deck. A lot of decent momentum, according to the insiders, with Ohio State and him. Just a couple of things that jumped out to me, before I let you dive into the technique side of stuff. Plays tackle in high school, but they pull him a lot.
A lot.
They pull him, they swing him. I think he's really good against the run.
Hmm.
But I don't know, and this is not a bad thing, because if he's going to play inside in college, I don't think his pass blocking is great. It doesn't jump off the page to me. And some of that is just a matter of, I don't think he's overly athletic. I don't think he's like that freak offensive tackle that you want in college. So he's going against these edge guys that are faster than him. So against, a rush in a pass situation, he doesn't get a chance for a lot of that full arm extension you kind of like to see. But that's my uneducated self. So what do you see with Drew Evers?
No, and I think you're very accurate in what you see on the film. I think he does pull a lot, and I think that is one of his strengths. And I do think that's going to lead him to be playing on the interior at guard, at right or left guard. And I think that's okay. I think what Tyler Bowen and what we're going to be doing in the run game, we're going to be pulling a lot. We saw that in the playoff with Luke. You're going to see that with, whether it's Saraveld, whether it's Tegra, whoever it is at guard. We want these guys who are really good pullers, who are going to be violent when they pull, because gap scheme is going to be something that we need to be very good at. And so if we can go find these guys who are able to do that at a very high clip, those are things that we need to go find. We need to go find those traits. And that's one of the things we've talked about on here so many times. we need to find those traits that these kids are good at, and then we can develop some of the other things that they may not be as strong as. Like as you mentioned, maybe he's not as strong in the pass game when it comes to pass sets and and his kick sets and things like that, but he's really good at pulling. Okay, so we know he's good in the run game. We got to develop some of the other things. I think he is somebody that's going to kick down inside and could be a very good player on the interior, but he does now provide position versatility because he's got experience playing right tackle for his high school. And again, Coach Day has talked about that a multitude of times. How many times are we going to have to lean on guys who are going to have to step up like Donovan Jackson did, right? Well, now you got a guy who's got experience out on the edge as well. And so you're paying Tyler Bowen and all these offensive line coaches a lot of money to bring these guys in and develop them so that if they are in a pinch, hey, we got a guy in Drew Evers who played tackle in high school. If we need to kick him out there, we can. So I do think he's an interior guy. I think he will be a very good puller in high school or in college. I really like his tape. Once he gets his hands on you, you're going into the ground. And so that's one of the things I like to see coming out of Texas. Listen, if we can get more offensive linemen out of the state of Texas, I'll never complain about that. And so I think Drew is a very good player. And so if he kicks down inside, man, and I think this is somebody that the Buckeyes could use in this class, man, because I love guards who can pull at a very high clip. You can never have too many of those guys on your roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you said something about, what Tyler Bowen wants. Because I feel like we're starting to see a trend every time we watch the tape of one of these offensive linemen that they are just like that road grading bulldozer type.
Yeah.
Which, ironically enough, a buddy of mine who is a Michigan fan told me like 3 years ago. He's like, your offensive line room does not have enough dudes who have full arm sleeves and mean streaks. And, he might have been right, but now you're starting to see that change. We saw Donovan Jackson really step up. We saw Luke play with a lot of swagger when he got chances. And that's one thing that, like the Michigan offensive line, when they have been really good, are dudes who just play mean and nasty. I will give them their props. I mean, they may have known that there wasn't a blitz coming, but they were mean and nasty and ran what they needed to run.
Yep.
So yeah, I like this kid. I really do. I hope that momentum is true.
Yep.
It would be a nice add. And like you said, anytime you can go to Texas and pool guys, it's a win. I don't know outside of Mike Mitchell that there's ever been a kid to come to Ohio State from Texas that wasn't at least somewhat successful. And the Mike Mitchell name drop, that's going back.
I forgot all about that kid, man. I thought Mike Mitchell was going to be unbelievable.
Yes.
I thought Mike Mitchell was going to be the guy. Like I really did. What a letdown. God,
yeah, I
man.
mean, that was back in the Nike Spark training days. I mean, that was, if you don't know who Mike Mitchell is, if you're too young for that, go back and look it up. I mean, this dude was, and he went to Texas Tech and found a little bit of success.
Yep.
But we would have liked that success to have been in Columbus. The last official visitor is D lineman Emanuel Ruffin. This is a guy the Buckeyes have kind of just got in on not too long ago. But again, just like with Texas, anytime you can go to Bessemer, Alabama, and pull out a 6'4", 290-pound defensive lineman who is the number 30 defensive lineman, number 13 player in the state of Alabama, that you're going against Tennessee and Bama for, you got to try. I mean,
absolutely.
You make them say no, especially because I think this kid projects inside. I will, position versatile is one of the things I've got written down, though. They do line him up in different spots in high school.
Yep.
But I do think that he will bump down. I don't think he's a true nose. I don't think he's like a Caden McDonald. Um, to give you that kind of visualization of what we see. Um, but on film, this kid is really, really good against the run.
Yeah, he
Um,
is.
I don't know that I'd say he's freaky athletic, but I wrote down that he's kind of a meat and potatoes guy.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think he's a penetrator. I think he is a guy that you put on some weight and he can play that nose, he could play that three technique. I think he is quick with his first step. I think that he is, like I said, he is a penetrator. His high school team played an odd front, so he played nose and he played five technique. So he did a lot of different things for them. I do think he projects as a three technique for the Buckeyes, but he's listed at 290. So if he's around that 280 pounds, 290 pounds when he gets to campus, if he's able to get up to 305 pounds, he's probably going to stay at that three technique and he's going to be asked to penetrate and get upfield and do a lot of different things and create disruption. And so I think this is a guy, again, you can get him out of the South. Great. This is a guy that you said we got in late on, but I do think you're seeing us, excuse me, we need to get some more interior defensive linemen. And so we did get in late, and I think it's because Coach Johnson and the rest of the defensive staff and defensive line coaches and Coach Patricia, especially Coach Patricia, you're going to see him start getting more involved with the defensive line. We have to cast that wider net. And so you're going to have to go into these places where we haven't traditionally had a lot of success getting some defensive linemen out of the South or out of Alabama. So, like, hey, let's go do it. Let's go try to get this kid. I think this kid can play. I really do. I think he is a very good, high potential three technique for us. Does he need refinement? Yes, I think he could play better with his hands, but he's not really asked to do that in high school. He's just a dominant player. And so I think Coach Johnson, Coach Patricia, they're able to get their hands on him. I think this kid can play. And so I would really try to ramp up the pressure on him and really try to get him out of the South. Obviously, you're fighting an uphill battle, probably going up against Tennessee and Alabama and some of the other schools. But I do think the Buckeyes are putting themselves in a good position. Obviously getting in late and still being, one of his official visits. And so I really like this kid, man. I think he can provide a lot of things for us as a three technique. And like I said, you get him to 305, he's not going to lose that first step and he can really do a lot of damage as that three technique penetrating that B gap.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting one to follow. Couple of 26 guys that came to camp this week. This is always that time of year. We saw it with Jake Cook last year, where you're going to see a few offers go out. The first guy, I got to double check myself here real quick, but I'm pretty sure he has an offer. I don't see how he doesn't. It's kind of one of those surprise camp type visits, though. Yeah, I mean, he's got an offer. So it's Ernest Rankins from Southwest DeKalb High School in Decatur, Georgia. That is a big camp visit. Normally, the camp visits are guys wanting to earn an offer. Now, we don't know if the staff didn't ask him to come. Let's get another look at you. 6'6", 285. Number 14 defensive lineman in the country, number 14 in the player at Georgia. Kind of an interesting assortment of schools that he has and is going to visit. Obviously, you've got Georgia, you've got Ohio State, Ole Miss, but then you get Florida State and Purdue.
Yeah.
He's all crystal balled to Georgia. Not a ton of tape out there on him. Obviously, a great frame, though.
Yeah, 6'6", 285, however big he is, like, huge frame. That's Jason Moore type frame. When we brought Jason Moore in, that's the type of frame that he had. I think this kid is somebody, state of Georgia, for me, listen, there are certain states that you got to get guys from. Yep. Like, you just have to. And Georgia's one of those states. And so this is a kid, he's coming to camp for a reason. Like, you got to make that impression on him. If this is a kid that you can get into the class, great. This is a kid, again, keep those relationships going. Don't let this fizzle out. Obviously, he's taken a visit. I think you said before he's taken a visit to Purdue or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
he has got there's something up north that is of interest to him. And so we've got to make sure that we are still in the fold, in the mix for this. He's coming to camp for a reason. What is that reason? Let's truly go through the vetting process and see what we can come out with, because this is a kid, again, from Georgia. You can never go wrong in the state of Georgia, in my opinion. I just really love recruiting that state, especially on the defensive line. And so if this kid wants to come up here in camp and show like, hey, Buckeyes, don't let me don't overlook me, then I'm all for it. And so it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. But yeah, definitely was shocked to see him be a guy that was going to come up in camp.
Yeah. Georgia has been very good to us on the defensive side of the ball, especially.
Yes, yes,
And then we have talked about casting a wide net. This one's a wide net. Very, very intriguing. A kid named Jackson Fields. He's a quarterback from Louisiana. We were talking about his offer list before we came on here, and I don't know that there's a Power 5 on there.
yeah. I
I don't
didn't
know
see
that there's a
one.
group. I don't think there's a group of 5 on there. Quarterback from Louisiana, but according to his Twitter, it was Coach Fessler who invited him to camp. Um, this kid can sling it. He's not overly athletic. He's not going to beat you with his feet. I think he can probably move enough. And then another thing I noticed is he's not afraid to use different arm angles.
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely of the velocity, the arm angle, all those different things that
Yeah,
you're seeing on social media with the different quarterback coaches out there. He definitely has that type of. You can definitely tell he spent some time with a quarterback coach. He can definitely spin it, man. And listen, we are in an interesting spot. Obviously we've got Julian saying, we've got Lincoln, right? They're going to let them battle out and see who wins that battle. But then we've got Tavian, and then we've got Brady Edmonds, right, in the 2027 class. So what's going to happen in 2026? A lot of these things you don't want to be caught in between. You're thinking that, Tavian's going to be the future, right? But he's going to have to sit a while if Julian's going to be the guy. So how are we going to attack this situation? Okay. And so this is the time where the Buckeyes really may have to get creative when it comes to this. We don't know. Like, the quarterback at recruiting in 2026 is going to start dwindling down. It has already dwindled down, right? There are kids in the state of Ohio that I thought we would have gone after, and we didn't. We didn't offer. Our guy at Ashland, we thought that we may go after and offer, and
yeah,
we never did. And so those are things that we are going to have to look at and get creative and cast that wide net. And this is a kid who can play. So if he comes up here and he earns an offer, awesome. If he comes up here and earns an NIL type of offer where it's, hey, you're not giving you a scholarship, but we'll put something together NIL wise that's going to pay for your school. Great. I do think Coach Day is going to want somebody in that 26 class, and if it's this kid, awesome. He can definitely spin it, man. And he's got FCS offers, and you never know what these guys can develop into. And so if it's him, it's him. I listen. These camp seasons are some of my favorite times as a coach, because I love seeing these kids show up and just earn these things, their dreams, right? They're everything that they've wanted. They go to these camps and they're just going out there to get it. Last year when we talked about Jake Cook, it was so cool to hear the stories. Like, he worked so hard, he puked all over the place, right? And then he got his offer. Like, those are the stories that you love to hear at these camps, right? We talked a few weeks ago at the small high school here in Marion that I'm coaching at. Kid goes to this combine and earns a NAIA offer, and he's just so excited about it. And it's like, those are the things that these kids are working for. And so if this kid goes to this camp and earns this offer, even if it's not Ohio State, if it's another college that's at this camp, You know what? That's fantastic. Like that is what these things are for, man. So always rooting for these guys to go get the shine and get the notoriety that they're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about Nathan Bernard, who committed to App State,
Yeah.
which that could be a really good spot for a dude like that.
Coach Loggins, great dude.
Uh, and then you hit on Brady Edmonds, who was here for 5 days this week on his own dime. That's pretty awesome.
He's pretty
Um,
good. He's pretty good.
yeah, I mean, we try not to look that far ahead when it comes to recruiting stuff, but yeah, he's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
There was talk that Jet Washington was going to take an OSU official. Um, he's actually going to visit Oregon this weekend.
Okay.
Um, Bishop Gorman, safety. I think obviously we know we're waiting on a domino to fall in the safety room, and maybe Ohio State circles back to him. Um, and then we talked about Mark Bowman a couple weeks ago when we were talking about tight ends. He committed to USC, which I think we've already got a tight end in the fold, but I think we talked about the kid from Illinois last week. I can't think of his name. That kid's really good though. Bowman's the number one tight end in the country, so obviously you're going to entertain it. But that one will be interesting to see what happens if they do take a second tight end. And then Justice Fitzpatrick, the little brother of Minka that we talked about, he committed to Georgia on his official there. That will also be interesting because, I couldn't imagine being a kid and committing on a visit when you still have, I guess I can't say that because we just talked about Favour. And, we think Favour is going to commit.
Yeah.
But, you saw it with the Wesley kid. But I'd like to think that the Fitzpatrick family, obviously they've been through this before. They're not going to commit to a school just to commit to a school.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's just so recruiting. It's just so different. It's just
It
so
is.
different. I can't even wrap my head around it. I was just talking to some of the coaches today, and we were talking about Wesley, and it's just so different. I can't even think about, even if you've got somebody like your big brother Minka Fitzpatrick who's gone through this process, right? And you still have to worry about, is he committing to the school just to commit to the school, right?
Right.
Like it's just crazy that this is where we are in college football, man. It's just nuts. You just question
Uh,
everything.
yeah, absolutely. And so, as quiet as this week was, so we're recording this on Friday night the 6th. Brady Edmonds will still be camping on the 9th and 10th. Then we dive into some of the guys we'll talk about next week. Like we said, it's a big week. We've got, we'll talk about Darius Gray, which that one's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Uh, Aaron Thomas, the guy we've talked a lot about, who is another guy who I think you could potentially see pop. Um, so the weekend of June 13th to the 15th, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 12, 14 guys on campus on official visits in the 26 class. So our next recruiting chips is going to be a family-sized bag. It's not going to be the snack bag like this one was. And then the last weekend of officials, the 20th through the 22nd, you got some big boys as well. Obviously, those names are going to change. Names will be added, names will be subtracted. But these next two after this one are going to be pretty in depth. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up this bag. Let us know what you guys think about the new layout. We're trying some stuff. Slate found this one, and let us know.
Yeah.
But I think that's all I've got.
That's all I got too, man.
All right, well, we will see you guys next week.